What's your name?
My name is Anthony Federico.
And where are you from?
Well, originally I'm from the north end of Boston, um, and now I live in Winchester, Massachusetts.
That's awesome. And where are your parents from?
Well, my parents from right, they live here in America right now. They live in Stoneham, Mass, but they originally come from Italy, the region of Abruzzi, in a small place in Abruzzi called Sulmona, which people that know Sulmona know that that's the capital of confetti.
For
Mario
sure,
Camus
yeah.
confetti, right? You like that?
hmm Yeah.
Um, Maybe you could offer the confettis to the class.
Yeah. What was it like being a first generation American in school?
Being a first generation American, obviously I went to school in the north end of Boston. The
Mhm.
school I went to was called St. Anthony's. There were two schools there. There was St. Anthony's and St. John's. So the
Mhm.
more Italian you were, you went to St. Anthony's, and the more non-Italian, well, you're really Italian, but the Americans, you went to
Yeah.
St. John's. So the first year I started there in kindergarten was rather difficult because my parents spoke Italian.
Mhm.
My
Yeah,
first
I'm
year
sure.
I spoke Italian, and so I kind of had to learn. But I was in good company because at least 70% of the class was in the same boat. They
hmm
speak English, and we were all learning together. And it was a great experience. And a lot of the people I met in kindergarten, I know today, and one of them I'm best friends with.
Lots of Italians, I'm sure.
A lot of Italians, yes.
Were most of your friends growing up of Italian descent?
Grown up, yes. Grown up in the North End, probably I would say 90 to 95% of the North End at the time, and we're talking about late 70s into the early 80s, were Italian. They were all Italian. If they weren't first generation, they were second generation, but Italian descent. I was first generation Italian, and it was common for first generation Italian to be friends with first generation Italian because of the fact that the parents knew
Yeah,
each other and there was a connection there.
for sure. Did many people in your neighborhood speak Italian?
Pretty much everyone except, as my nonna said, everyone except the Americans. The North End was split
For
into
sure.
categories. There were the Italians, which were the first generations. They like to say they came off the boat, but most of them took planes. And
For sure.
yeah, they spoke Italian. And their parents spoke
Yeah.
Italian, and in the households it was common to see your grandparents, parents, and the grandchildren all living in one house.
hmm
All spoke Italian, and then you had the ones that didn't speak Italian, which were probably the second generation. They were in the North End as well, but most of the people I grew up with, knowing the parents, spoke Italian.
Yeah, it seems like it was very common that people spoke Italian.
Very common at the time there, yes, and I'm sure common in other places like Little Italy,
Yeah,
New York, and places like that as well.
yeah, definitely. What Italian traditions were present in the North End?
Uh, Everything they can bring over from Italy, they brought to the North End. That's from their cuisine, what they cooked, winemaking. And you look in the North End and you say, where can because a lot of Italians like to grow their own tomatoes, have tomato gardens, or grow vegetables. And where do you plant those? The North End
Yeah,
is cement. You have
right.
sidewalks. Well, you go up to the roof. You went
Yeah,
up to the roofs of those buildings that you see as you come down Hanover Street. And if you took an aerial shot at the time, you could see all the tomato gardens being grown up, and other vegetables being grown there. Winemaking was another tradition, and that was, men from Italy. The North End it was Abruzzes, people from Avellino, Avellines, and Sicilians, and they all got together and they made wine, and they each shared different secrets of their recipes with each other. And that also went for the Italian cooking.
hmm
There's a big influence in Abruzzes in America today from people from Avellino, because they shared each other's recipe at the time, because the North End was like a melting pot with
right.
with all the Italians that came. You had the Abruzzes, Villanese, Neapolitans, Nablodan, and you had the Sicilians, and each one lived in different sections of the North End together.
Yes.
And that's how they immigrated here.
And they all came together.
They all kind of came together, and they kind of knew where their cousins and their brothers and everyone was in the North End.
All the family. Yeah, that's awesome. So
Very
would you say,
family-oriented.
would you say the Italian presence was strong in the North End?
Yes, very strong from, like I said, from the traditions. Also, another tradition, and you can see, it today. The Italian presence is the feast.
The feast, yep, in August.
And you go down Hano Street, and you have 3 feasts there. Every weekend, you have 3 feasts, and there's Italian cuisine. You see the Italian flag, and some of these saints, especially Saint Anthony's, are celebrated in Italy, and that was brought over here. And the immigrants, for example, I think the Saint Anthony's was celebrated in Avellino, and the people of Avellino brought that tradition like over 100 years ago here to have the feast of Saint Anthony's, connecting with that paese or that town in Italy.
Yeah, no, for sure. The feast is obviously awesome. It seems like they're bringing Italy into the North End.
Yeah, and the last feast in the North End is the St. Anthony's feast. And when you have that feast, you know the summer has ended and we're going into fall.
Definitely. Did you or Nonno and Nonna have to assimilate to America in any way, even though you lived in a predominantly Italian neighborhood?
Yeah, well, yeah, because you work. You sometimes you didn't work right or not. Now some people did, but your Nana, she actually didn't really have to assimilate as much because she kind of worked within the North End with people that she was friends with, and they kind of worked together at that time in factories. But Nonno kind of went into the construction, and he went outside of the North End, and he had to kind of assimilate with the different laws and rules and different cultures and other nationalities. So he kind of probably had to assimilate more.
He definitely did, yeah. Did Nonno and Nonna prioritize Italian traditions in the household?
Oh yeah.
And they still do.
Very well know, and you could walk in their house any time of day, and they'll have Rai on, which is the
Italian
TV
network.
Station, and they listen to the news, the Italian news, because they can understand them more. That station kind of gives you the global news, and they kind of like to listen to it in their own language. From the different holidays, what they cook, the pasta and the cookies. Nonna and Abruzzi, she learned how to make something called pizzelle, and that's another tradition was passed on and from generation to generation. And the Abruzzes were known for that, but that recipe was also passed on with people from Avellino and people from Sicily here in the North End, because they all became friends, and there was and they kind of gave each other recipes. Even like the way she cooks the pasta on Sundays. During growing up in the North End, walking down Hano Street after church, all you do is smell all these great tomato sauces cooking, because everyone in those buildings were cooking tomato sauce and having their Sunday dinner all together as a family, and it was just great. I mean, you'd walk from one end of Hano Street. By the time you got to the other end of Hano Street, half the day was gone, because you knew everybody. You're talking.
You knew everybody. You talk to everyone, which is great.
You stop at every doorstep, and there's a conversation, and you keep going. By the time you get to the other end of Hano Street, time to go home. It's too late. You got to go home.
Yeah, no, definitely. And finally, would you say you held on to many of the Italian cultural traditions passed down from Nonno and Nonna?
Try to. There's certain things I wish I did. I wish I learned to make the wine like that Nonno makes. And again, I saw people in the North End down those basements, those men making those wines, those cool October days. But as you know, your mom is Italian, and she's kind of kept those traditions with the Italian food and the holidays, and also the languages and things like that. So that kind of kept a little bit of the tradition, but a lot of it's been lost, and hopefully they don't get lost with the next generation.
I hope not. All right. That was the final question I had for you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And anytime you want to know about the North End, you can call me the historian of the North End.